Oh, I know everything's really busy upstairs, and I want to be respectful of that, but I want to also come to you and on our revenue numbers and tell you some good news and some news that I hope, you know, that and I sure don't want to put words in anybody's mouth or anything, but think deeper into these numbers than just the soundbite. You know, I said this before, but we don't want to pluck out the, you know, the overly good stuff. I love the numbers where the numbers are because they're you know, and Bray brought this up early on, or maybe Mike Hall or somebody said, or maybe it's Dave, that said, we don't want to run out here and just tell you when numbers are extravagantly good. For the month of January, we're coming in about $3 million below our estimates. Now, I don't want that to be the only thing that you hear today because, you know, I said to you before, you know, if, you know, a lot of times we report news, you know, from a side of negativity sometimes, and I'm not really crazy about that, but I don't want you to go back to the Dan Rather and the invention of electricity and, you know, bad news for American candle makers today. But here's how I see this as a good thing. We very conservatively, you know, raised the revenue estimate, and we raised the revenue estimate when we had $186 million. We raised the revenue estimate $142 million. Now, we had a revenue estimate, a surplus of $185 million in the first 6 months, and we believe that things are going to continue to be good. But we very, very conservatively did this. The good part about coming in a little short is it is a little bit of shot across the bow of all of us in government to say, let's don't get carried away upstairs and think the money's just coming from everywhere under the sun, and get ourselves out as a skier would be in front of our skis, because then's when we're getting ready to fall. But the reality of these numbers is just this, and these guys will go through in more detail the numbers, but the reality is all the way across the board the numbers are spectacular. You know, and the reality is we anticipated that in the first month of the quarter, and Mark will probably be better to explain that than I, but in the first month of the quarter, because of all the stuff that's going back out to the counties, you know, as we are doing better in the first month, there is a big amount of monies that are going out, which lead to your surplus. And that's why October's numbers were not very good. And so, do we believe that things are going to continue on a path of goodness? Yes, but this is great with me because it just shows what we did was the right thing. It shows that we're managing the House the way the House ought to be managed. And I don't mean the House of Delegates, I mean our personal House. And what I'm saying by that is just this, is by only doing what we did on the revenue increase that we did, we kept in the coffer $43 million. And we believe that's going to grow throughout the balance of the year. But the good part about what we did is we just showed that we're doing this in the right way. Now, we believe these numbers are going to continue to be really good. But I love it that what we've done here is we've got something other than just runaway revenue where everybody's going to try to go and spend every dollar in the history of the world, and they're going to say, well, the governor only raised this $142 million. We could have raised it $300. We could have, but we did the right thing. So, no, I like it. I'm good with it, and And the only other thing I've got to report, and then these guys can give you more of the details and everything, is I've got one, one thing on our tolls on our turnpike. A lot of people believe 2 or 3 things would happen. First of all, by raising the tolls, the sky would fall and trucks would be diverted, and maybe the people wouldn't utilize the Easy Pass, but they did. The engineering firm, and I think it's CDM Smith, that did the study, basically thought that there'd be 800,000 transponders bought. That's a big, big, big number. And there wasn't that many bought. There was 110,000 new transponders. Overwhelming majority of those bought by West Virginians, which is exactly what we wanted to have happen. Had to offer them to others out of state, but we wanted it to be Mountaineers go free. That's what we wanted to have, and that's what happened. We had 40,000 old transponders, a total now of 150,000, you know, and overwhelmingly West Virginians. Good stuff, really good stuff. And, you know, as far as the study that was done before said the revenues would increase from 90 to 115 million. Well, we're going to blow that away. I mean, we're going to go zooming past that. And, you know, the net of the whole thing is they said 20% of the truck traffic would be diverted, and it was 3.7% in January. So you know, it's good. Turnpike's good. You know, what we did there, we let a lot of people that are going up and down the road for $8 a year, and that's neat stuff, and that's good. You know, the total passenger car revenue, the truck revenue went up 96.3%. Now, what that means is there was 3.7% less truck, because the trucks are double, the cars are double, you know. But now the cars were 44.9%. So what that means is a lot of people are zooming up and down the road with an Easy Pass, and that's really good. That's really great. So so that's really, I mean, the long and short of it is we're going to come in very nicely on an increase on our tolls, and very nicely with the people of West Virginia, and that's really, really good. Now, as far as the individual numbers, whether it be personal income, net corporate income, and all that, these guys, I could read it all to you here and everything. There's really, well, I'll read you a little bit. The 142 million, you know what we did there. General revenue collections for January were 422.3 million. And I'll give you this. There's no point in me reading all this to you. Let's just give them this. You know, they're my talking points and everything. Says, but we're still at 7.4% above prior year receipts. The 422.3 million was 3 million short of our estimate. You know, our estimates are running at 99.3%. You know, I mean, that's for the month of January. You know, but our estimates are at 99.3% in the month of January. So, for God's sakes, I don't know how it can be a whole lot better than that, except if it were in the plus side. You know, it says, despite this small shortfall, January collections, we still expect revenues will grow significantly during the last 5 months of the year. Year-to-date collections are $2.657 billion, nearly 41 million above estimate, and 12.5% above last year. sharp rise in year-to-date collections are attributable to very high growth rates in severance tax, corporate net income tax, consumer sales tax, and personal income tax. Year-to-date general fund severance collections are 45% above last year. Year-to-date corporate net is 73.7% above last year. Year-to-date general fund consumer sales tax is 12% above last year. And year-to-date personal income tax collections are 7.5% above last year. The changes include an increase in personal income tax, the personal income tax estimate from $2 billion to $2.05 billion, a change in consumer sales tax estimate from $1.3 billion to $1.35 billion, and a change in severance tax estimate from $361 million to $418 million. Now, you can tell my throat's going crazy from yelling and everything else and talking so much and all that kind of stuff. But that's really, I mean, the net of this whole thing is just this. First month out of the year, we anticipate things are going to dip down just a little bit. First month out of the quarter, rather, dip down a little bit. Things still really, really, really good. I love it because it just shows we did the right thing. You know, we didn't just run out in front of our skis and do something, you know, extravagant. We did the right thing. And so state's still doing great. Think numbers are still coming in really good, and we're anticipating that they're going to continue to do that. But we always want to err on the conservative side. You know, that's what we want to do. Now, I'm here for your questions.
Hate to change the subject, but can we talk education?
You can talk anything with me. You know that. I'll do it the best I can.
It appears, I don't know if it's happened yet or not, that Senate Bill 451 will pretty much go through as it started out with the provisions that you said you vetoed it for. Is that still your position?
Well, you know, like I told you the other day, you know, if I tell you it's a 7 2 weeks ago and you come back to me, unless something extraordinary has changed, it's going to be a 7. I'm not going to be your run-of-the-mill politician that just tries to tell people what they want to hear. You know, I feel no differently than I did before, except I caution you just by doing this. All of us, and I said it before exactly this way, we should absolutely be respectful of the process, be respectful of the fact of what people are doing. I don't think our Republicans in the Senate are hitting back at the other side. I think they really believe, and there are things within that bill that I would be supportive of, you know, but there are things that I'd absolutely not be supportive of, and I've expressed that already before, so we don't need to rehash that ground. But the net of the whole thing is, I think it'll be okay. I mean, at the end of the day, this has got to go to the House, and you know, in the House, and I can't speak for the House. I don't know what the House is going to do and everything, and I really purposely, you know, I know a lot more than I can tell you here, but at the same time, again, I'm trying to be very respectful of the process, and I do not think in any way that we need to rush to judgment right yet, because this is all going to work out good.
Do you think maybe the educators and school service workers are getting out too far in front of this, calling for what appears to be a strike authorization vote if they wanted to do that?
Well, I can't speak for them from the standpoint of or be judgmental of what they're doing. Maybe that's the right thing. You know, I don't think we need to be alarmingly concerned, but at the same time, I know they want to express their voice, and I am absolutely for anyone and everyone expressing their voice, you know, but I think it will be absolutely just fine at the end of the day. And I hope we don't end up with work stoppages and a real unnecessary food fight, you know, but I just, I would be very remiss if I didn't tell you that it's difficult for me to understand, you know, but at the same time, I am very respectful for the fact that they, you know, that the Senate Republicans believe that we should make improvements in education, and they think that that's what they're trying to, you know, move toward. And I'm one that believes, as I think the education community believes, that there's no question we can do better. All of us know we can do better, you know, and what we got to do is just continue to try to work as hard as we possibly can together to get better. But I also do believe that our schools are good too. I mean, our schools are good and our teachers are good. You know, now think about this just a second. I usually talk too much. But the other night, we were finished with our practice and everything else. I took our kids over to watch one of the games that we were going to play the opponent in the Big Atlantic. And it was 7 o'clock at night. And I'm driving, you know, Kathy and I are driving 5 kids, and there's two other vehicles driving the other kids. I kid you not, and this is absolute gospel fact. Those kids sat in my vehicle with a light on in the vehicle doing their homework, because that was on Thursday night, because they thought they may be back in school on Friday. Now, and then when they were at the game, they sat there in the stands doing more homework, and all the way back, the same thing, all the way. And they said they still didn't get done, and then they happened to not have school on Friday. But, you know, that's the part about our educators that people don't see. You know, this isn't a bunch of people that are just sitting there doing nothing in schools. I mean, for crying out loud, every single one of my kids, every single one of them was working on homework for a long, long, long time. And then when we turned them loose, they went home and they came in the next day. I said, you know, well, you didn't have school and whatever like that. And they said, I know, and I stayed up till 2 o'clock. I stayed up till 1 o'clock and everything. Every last one of them saying the same stuff, working on homework. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. So, yeah, we can be better. We can be a lot better. And we can get our numbers better. But we got a lot of good stuff going on in education, too.
Charter schools seems to be a big issue for the Senate leadership. That's a definite no for you.
I've said it exactly where I stand there. If we're going charter schools statewide, you know, and it's going to be lots and lots and lots, and we're going to jump in that pool right off the get-go, no, I'm not there at all. If we can come back with some real watered-down charter school thing to where we can try it on a pilot-type project, 2 or 3 or whatever it may be, you know, I could maybe be for that.
If you're talking about the budget, it sounds like you're sending a warning to the legislature not to get overly aggressive, either doing tax cuts or doing new issues that require new revenue. Am I reading that right?
I think that, you know, Phil, I think that's probably fair. I think you know, when I come in here and I report to you that you know, December came in at $45 million. I don't remember exactly what it was. $45 million above budget. You know, and then and November came in $19 million above budget, and then I go all the way back to September, which really kind of caught us a little bit off guard and everything. But September comes in $54 million above budget. And when I'm coming in here giving you those kind of numbers, before you know it, anybody and everybody can get goo-goo-eyed. Well, I've run enough businesses, I don't get goo-goo-eyed. These guys don't get goo-goo-eyed. And we don't want to be that way. And please, let's don't be derogatory toward our legislatures, but we need to be conservative in our thinking, and we need at the end of the day to still have a bucket of money and keep things moving down the path in the right way. We think the numbers are going to continue to be good, but you know, this is good. This is good. If the numbers in the first quarter, the first month of the quarter had come in, I think October came in at 3 million to the good. And, everybody thought, oh, gosh, what happened there? And then November's 19 and December's 45. Just look at that, how that happened and everything. Well, so if this number would have come in 10 million to the good, it's just human nature. I don't care if it's your house or what it is. When you got a little bit more money in the bank account, we want to buy something all the time. We want to go buy something, and that's good in some ways. It drives the economy, but we just need to be conservative in our thinking.
Governor, one other thing that we wanted to mention, and it affects the January numbers. As you said, they were 99.3% of projection, and consumer sales tax 5.4% up from last year, severance 17.0%. Corporate net income tax was up 15 million. But Mark Nico, of course, wanted to dig into why we were not quite as happy with the state income tax and state withholding numbers. And Mark, I think you did some research on that you wanted to explain, because it does give us some more insight to the January numbers.
Okay.
Overall, very happy about the numbers, and the income taxes were kind of interesting in the month of January. I'll first start with the corporate income tax. Corporate income tax, our biggest surplus in January was corporate income tax. We were about 4.9 million above estimate, and the gross collections were up over 17.7%. But the big difference in in January had to do with tax refund payments. Tax refund payments were a lot lower in corporate income tax in January than last year. Declined by about $14.9 million. So as a result, there's a net gain in corporate tax in January was over $15 million to the good compared to last January. So that's a big upswing. On the downswing, the personal income tax was above last year in January by about 0.8%, but still was 10.7 million below estimate. And there were a number of causes there, including, among other things, federal tax reform. The federal tax reform bill or measure puts a cap on the state and local tax deduction at $10,000, and it had an impact on taxpayer behavior in terms of when they pay their taxes. And as a result, I'll call it the quarterly estimated tax payments. Those quarterly estimated tax payments can either come in December or in January. Those overall were down about 22.7% for the 2 months combined compared to last year. And now that money is going to still be paid, but it may be paid in April or some other time. People used to rush to get their payments in December to maximize that state tax deduction on the federal level. That's no longer necessary anymore because of the cap on the itemized deduction limit. So that was down, although in January the estimated tax was only off about $1 million from the estimate. Withholding tax is also a little bit weaker than we expected. In January, it was up 4.2%, which is usually pretty good. Our estimate was about 5.4%. But a couple factors there. One is December was very strong. December was up 22%. Usually when we get one of those very high months, it's going to be followed by a month that's not quite as high. Put the year-to-date together, we're up 11.9% on withholding. Still very, very good. But also keep in mind at the end of December, later half of December and into January, a number of federal employees were out of work. And so that had probably a little bit of a cooling effect on the growth rate and withholding tax starting in January. Ultimately, most of that gets made up as those federal employees get back to work and earn those paychecks. Finally, as mentioned about the quarterly month, when the state is doing well, with things like sales tax and severance tax, it also means that local governments are doing well. We collect not only state tax revenues, but also local tax revenues, such as full
Mark, let me interrupt. This is really, really, really important. Because, see, I didn't realize this and everything, but this is really important what he's saying right here.
So the coal severance tax and the oil and gas severance tax and the sales tax, municipal sales tax, are all higher this year than last year. And those mines, particularly coal severance and local sales tax, go out on a quarterly basis. And the quarterly payment came out in January out of the state coffers. And for the coal severance tax, there's two separate distributions. They were actually $2.4 million above estimate. for the quarter and 18.4% ahead of last year. And the local sales tax distribution was $21.5 million neighborhood, which is up over $2 million, about $2.3 million over last year. Now we have a few new municipalities in the mix, but even with that, there's a pretty good strong growth rate in the sales tax. And along with that, higher than expected sales tax distribution that went on in January on a quarterly basis. So that has an impact on the numbers as well. Overall, we're very happy, 7.4% revenue growth in the month. The second half of the year, we still see some pretty good growth in the second half of the year, but not as strong as the first half of the year. First half of the year up 13.5%. At the end of January, 12.5%. And the presentation to the legislature, which was made last month, indicates that we're going to be happy if at the end of this year we're up in the high single-digit percentage for the whole year. For the whole fiscal year. So we think things will be, in terms of growth, we'll slow down a little bit in the second half of the year, but still we're in great shape for collection purposes for this current fiscal year.
One other point, Phil, I wanted to make with respect to your question about the legislature. The governor's budget that we presented, and we tried to make it clear during our presentation, we've already adjusted the revenue numbers to reflect the Social Security tax exemption. In other words, we brought the revenue numbers down $50 million to already build that into the budget.
And that'll be
sure that was clear.
That'll be for fiscal year 2020, not so much for fiscal year 19, the current fiscal year. That'll be next fiscal year's numbers will be adjusted to reflect the Social Security tax exemption, which will take effect on, if the bill passes, it takes effect on January 1st.
So you think the federal shutdown did have some impact here on our?
Well, it has some impact because there are a number of federal employees. We have big operations in Clarksburg. A number of folks, particularly in Eastern Panhandle, work for the federal government and or work for contractors, work for the federal government. And during the government shutdown, a number of those folks were out of work. They did not receive their paychecks time. And if you don't receive your paycheck, that means that withholding tax that goes with it is not going to be.
You had said previously you thought there would be a slowdown on natural gas pipeline construction. Is that reflected on these numbers at all?
Well, the pipeline construction and construction industry activity overall is much more significant during good weather months than in cold weather months. And December is not necessarily known to be a good weather month. So during the winter months, you're going to see a little less activity than you'll see elsewhere. But expect those pipeline activities to pick up as the weather warms up in the spring. And the groundhog said that there's spring's around the corner, so I think some good news there coming out of Pennsylvania.
I think our groundhog said 6 more weeks in the year.
Yeah, differences of opinion.
Let me go ahead.
We're 7/12 of the way in now. So we, as you know, we constantly watch patterns and trends and try to see where we are. So when you're 7/12 of the way in, you're getting pretty far down the road. And the best number that just comes off the page is 7/12 of the way in from a year ago. We're up overall, all of our revenue, we're up 12.5%. And then if you look at severance, the number, you just keep wanting to check it over and over. Year to date, 7/12 of the way in, it's up 45.7%. And corporate net income tax is up 73.7%. And then you ice the cake by saying sales tax, consumer sales tax up 12%. So you've got double-digit increases across many of these revenue lines, and that's how you end up at 12.5% overall, 7/12 of the way through.
How does the severance split out between coal and natural gas?
I don't have numbers complete through January, but through December, let's see. December, our breakout on coal year to date was up about 30% from last year. Natural gas was up 31.7% from last year. Oil was up 173% from last year. And oil is less significant than gas and coal, but overall, at the end of December, we were up 42.6%. So it's broad-based. The energy prices for oil and gas are higher this year than they were last year, so it's a big effect. And coal exports are significantly higher, and exports are good. Exports mean increase in GDP, so that helps contribute to the overall economic growth of the state, and been very positive on the severance tax line. And also affects the corporate income tax, because I think energy has been a big player on the corporate income tax payment, schedule as well.
The turnpike numbers reflect a doubling of the toll, but that didn't happen till the middle of the month. You figure that they'll still be fairly accurate about the number of commercial truck owners who will seek another route.
I think so, because, you know, the biggest thing they're doing is monitoring the traffic, monitoring the amount of the traffic and everything. And so, and it was good. It was good. Let me mention, let me have your pen there real quick. Let me mention 3 things, and I just want to make sure that I get it right, but because I'll forget it. And I'll do these real quick, but from the coal side, gas prices remain still pretty daggum solid and everything, and pretty good. And so that part's good, and absolutely from the standpoint of the construction pipeline and stuff like that, you know, they're surely not going to work in, you know, in January very much, and so we, you know, that's an 80,000 foot flyby. From a coal standpoint, you know, you've got steam coal prices, which is either 4/5 or 3/4 of our total production within our state, historically, always. So 75 to 80% of our total production is steam coal. And steam coal prices, I think the last time I was in front of you were about 75 bucks, and they've increased to like 78.30 right now. So they've still gone up a little more, which is unbelievable, to tell you the truth. From the metallurgical side, you know, the market has eased off from about $206 or $207 a metric ton FOB port to in the $186 range. Still good, still really good, and you know, I don't see any backup from the standpoint of the producers on the metallurgical side. Price still good, so that's a little update on the energy side. From the oil side, you know, we don't produce much oil, and you know, but I'd like to report one other thing. Let's go back to those kids just a second, and you know, the kids that I was talking about in the car and door. This morning before I came and everything, I went to Greenbrier East and spoke to a bunch of FBLA, which is the Future Business Leaders of America or Association, you know, and you know, I expected, this goes back to the teachers and the kids, you know. I mean, there was kids there from every race, you know, there was, I mean, it was, you know, there was, I expected there to be 12 kids there was 40 some, you know, kids really interested in what they're doing, 2 teachers there that, you know, are really just working their tail off for those kids and everything. And so you know, it should be noted, again, just people doing good work. That's all there is to it. And the only other thing I'd add is just this is, you know, the other night in the Big Atlantic tournament on Saturday night, we played Martinsburg. And then those girls, you know, we were able to come out on the long end of the stick. It was a really tight game. 30 seconds to go in the game, the score was tied and everything. And then after the game, of course, I left. And then, you know, probably about 40 minutes after I got home, they called my house and said the Martinsburg van or bus had completely flipped over. And the sheriff, you know, in Raleigh County, Scott Van Meter, was talking with one of the troopers or with Mo Ball, and Mo's my best buddy, and my doctor was on the scene, and Mo was there, and I was saying, can I get in there, and can I get back there, and all that kind of stuff. And the sheriff turned to them and said, what I'm wondering is how many are dead. Not how many are hurt, how many are dead, you know, because it was just that bad. And so we got out of that with, I think, having to cut 2 people out of the van, and we got out of that without anybody with any terribly bad injury and everything, and we took care of those kids. And I see Rebecca Blaine back here in the back, and Bray and Jordan, and just all the people that just busted their tail, you know, I was on the phone with with you know, school superintendents all night and everything else, and I, you know, I'm so terrible on names. Manny is Manny Arvant, you know, and you know, Manny and I talked 15 times, seemed like, and you know, everybody just jumped in as West Virginians do and took care of those kids and took care of those coaches. And from the state police just on down, you know, good stuff, good stuff. We're really, really, really fortunate we don't have something really bad to deal with there. That's all I got. Y'all go up and get the Senate and the House to be buddies. And